Yeah, I got a comment on the. Oh, okay. Here. Okay, I'm in. Good. Okay. Refresh YouTube. I don't know what's been going on with this thing. This is a little aggravating. I don't see myself on YouTube. All right, I guess if you can see me, make a comment. I think it's probably just Beth. I think you're in the room, but I don't see anyone else here. Just fine. I still can't tell. This is through my main page. 26 seconds, and then I restarted it. Damn it. If anyone's out there that can hear this, just post a comment somewhere. Let me know that this is actually streaming. No, doesn't look like it. It was working so well before. And then, so if anyone can hear me, I figured out what the issue was last week. I was using my desktop instead of my laptop, so there was some setting that was different. I haven't investigated what that setting was, but now I'm on my laptop again, and it's just not working. All right, I'm gonna give it another 5 or 10 minutes of trying to figure this out, and then I'll call it. All right, let's communicate a little bit. Oh, Beth, you see me? On, I'm just gonna, here, I'll text you. So why can't I get to it? Because Beth, I had if you can hear me, I had like a 20 second thing where it worked, and then I stupidly shut it down. So I don't know if you can hear me now. Oh, okay. All right, I do see you, Beth. Okay, so I am actually streaming. Oh, Christ. There we go. I've been doing it for 5 minutes. Okay, this is through my personal page, but I don't see it on my fan page. Whatever, it's fine. It's fine. Yes, I gotta figure this ridiculous thing out. Anyway, hi. Welcome. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Beth. I was not able to see your comments until I dug a little deeper to my Facebook stream. I'm becoming less and less enamored with Restream. So I'm paying for it now, and I still can't connect to Instagram. I don't know if a different streaming service will be any easier or better. I don't know. Anyway, I might do a few tests later this week to try to figure it out. But yes, Beth, I see your comment now. I've got the right windows up. Let's see, other administrative things. Last week, I think I figured out what the issue was with streaming. I was using my desktop instead of my laptop. Now I'm back on my laptop, which made me think there wouldn't be any issues, and there are. But that's okay. The other thing. Oh, I'm thinking of pushing this back to 11 o'clock every week, just because I usually have a 9:30 meeting and have to leave early to get to this. So, otherwise, I think I'm gonna go straight into the folding. Got some elephant hide here. I'm gonna slice it up. I was at a bar last night and I folded some paper because that's what you do in a bar. That's what I do in a bar. And there we go. Let me zoom this out a bit. This is a thing that I folded that I thought was kind of fun. Yes, Beth, I see you. Here, hold on. Okay. Yeah, so this was kind of fun. This was try to find the center here. There we go. This was this way. Oh, I'm backwards. There we go. That's why it's messing me up. Bring this out a little bit. I'm not using my dock cam messed up recently, and this is the one I'm used to. So I've basically got a well, actually I'll show you the setup. This is a kind of a desk mountable thing, and it's definitely taken some getting used to. So this is another dock cam that's just Velcro to that. It's a little. It'll take some getting used to. So apologies for all the jankiness this morning. I will get the hang of this. Anyway, so this is what I folded at the Grizz last night. There's a bar I go to every Monday night, and usually get some folding done beforehand. So it's kind of cool. This is parallel, evenly spaced lines, and then between every other one, there's a diagonal, and there's no diagonal, then there's an opposite diagonal, no diagonal, first diagonal, no diagonal, opposite. So it kind of goes down like that. And this was fun to do, but this got to, you can kind of see the zigzag oscillates until it hits a certain region. And then if this had more paper over here, this would start to zigzag and get spiky again. So basically your midpoint is this, and you have reflection. I don't know if it's a true reflection, but it's an approximate reflection. So that's kind of cool. And so there's this zone of, I call it the zone of transition because it transitions from, really it's oscillating between mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, and then at some point you have two valleys in a row or two mountains in a row, and it switches. So you transition from one pattern to the next, A, B, A, B, A, B, B, A, B, A, B, A. So I'm going to play around with that because I think that's really interesting. This is another thing I folded at the Grizz last night. I didn't quite finish it in time, but this is what I'm going to be focusing on, this corrugation. And so in the past, I've done full griddings of pattern. So I start with the grid and then go off and fold it into something. I think I'm going to do something similar with this. It's actually kind of a similar process. You take a sheet of paper, you do all the pre-creases, you back crease, and then you develop a pattern from there based on whatever the conditions are. In the case of gridded patterns, the conditions are start with a grid. Like those are all the pre-crease lines. And you just have a system for applying those. With corrugations, by and large, you're going to be developing your own sort of, I call it the first collapse. The first sort of set of pre-creases that go into your design. But I need a paper cutter. I've got some elephant hide here. I'm going to slice up into half. And then we'll get this thing going. Where is my paper cutter? Here we go. Oh yeah, guys. Super on top of things this morning. Yeah, if I push it back to 11, I'll have time to set up after the meeting. Before the live streams in the future. So I think that's part of the problem. Okay. So one of the things that I like to do is fold these diagonals. So if you see this rectangle here, there's a diagonal that cuts. It's a diagonal. Like it does two opposite ends of the rectangle. Two opposite corners of the rectangle. It's actually kind of hard to fold. It takes some practice. Let's see if we can move this out of the way. Get a little more room. There. So the way I fold a diagonal across with a square it's easy. With a square I would just connect that point to the opposite point, but obviously with a non-square rectangle, that doesn't work so well. Let's raise that up a bit. With a non-square rectangle, that doesn't work as well. With a non-square rectangle, what you kind of have to do is you sort of condition it into place. So what I like to do, I'll start with just the corner here. So that's a sharp crease. It's easy enough to sort of, this is just a guess of where it's supposed to be, but it's sort of easy enough to shimmy a small segment, even if it's a sharp crease. And the same thing over here, just a little, maybe like an inch in, a few centimeters. And then from there, you hold on the one side, you hold on the other side, and you develop the center. So this is the opposite of most of the folds that I do, where you start at the center and you work your way out. You can pull. This is still sort of undefined. This region is still kind of undefined as a crease. And as you sort of condition it more and more, you're pressing down. Now it's more definitive. this is about where it's going to go. You still have a little bit of play. You can see the difference between sharp crease and then it goes to more of a bend. So I could pull it, I could push it as I need to get it about where it needs to go. And then when I feel confident, then I can really jam that sucker down. And I folded the diagonal. And it's, you know, it's pretty good. Oh, trying to get inside there. No, there we go. This one's a little off. If I wanted to, I could pull ever so slightly. Just a very slight amount. Get that looking just fine. Okay, cool. I have folded the diagonal, and like with gridding, anytime I fold in one direction, I'm going to fold the other direction, so it makes a back crease. And I have a comment. Move blinking computer lights. Move the blinking computer lights on the screen view. Oh, this. All right. There we go. Yeah, Beth, there's only so much setup I could have done before now. It's just, I'm going to have to roll with whatever I have. So I appreciate the feedback, but I'm in a bit of a bind today. So I have a crease that's diagonal, like that. And what I'm trying to do is get a set of parallel creases that go, you know, parallel to this all the way out to the edge. In order to get a parallel crease here, easiest way to do that is to do perpendicular crease this way. So I'll do, I don't have to put it really anywhere specific, but I'm gonna pinch here and pinch here. I've got these two creases lined up like that. You got a little pinch. There's the diagonal. There's a pinch. There's a corner here, and I can fold from here to here to get the 1/4 mark. I can do the same over on this side to get the 1/4 mark, or I can replicate that crease across the paper. Something like this. Use the thickness of the paper to sort of translate it like that. And with some practice, you can get some pretty good precision. Okay, cool. Back crease those. All right, I'm going to develop this a little further. I think I'm going to go to 8s. This is the same way you'd set up a grid. You fold from one effectively grid line to the next, and get the half line marks. And then back crease. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Boy, I keep getting notifications that I have a live stream in a few minutes. I don't know. It's weird. Okay. So I've got all these pre-creases. I'm going to start to rotate this paper. So this is what I worked on last night at the bar. And the first collapse is the kind of the core structure of what I'm folding. kind of looks like this. And you can see how it kind of rotates around, and that's by having you have parallel creases and then you have diagonals or angled creases. Naturally makes this rotation. So we're going to set that up, and so we're going to do a whole bunch more diagonals. And of course, this is all based on the boundary of the rectangle. So, for example, we might have a diagonal that goes from here up to here. But if this were a longer triangle, then it would go a little further. For a shorter triangle, a little stubbier, it would end a little earlier. So here's how I like to do this. If I'm doing a diagonal between two creases, parallel or not, doesn't matter. I'll make one of them a mountain fold everything on the other side of it underneath, and do. Let's do a clockwise thing. So, just like we did the diagonal before, I'm going to pinch this diagonal roughly where it's supposed to go. Because it's a lot easier to move a smaller segment, even if it's demonstrably pinched, creased. And then I'm going to flip and do the other one. And then I got to work on the middle area. So I've got pinch here, middle area. Kind of shimmy that into place, press it down. Sometimes it drifts a little. Let's get that a little better. And I'm only going to be pressing. If I were to use my thumbnail, you'd see I'd make a mark in here. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to flip that flat back and really get that diagonal crease right in there with a little bit of precision. Cool, so I'm going to keep doing that. The next one, diagonal, is going to go from here to here. Going to toss the stuff underneath. 1, 2. Sometimes you don't have to flip the paper if it's short enough crease. There's the second one. Keep doing this. Cool. And then the third one, I'm just going to eyeball. I don't really have a reference for this. I just know that it's going to hit there, and sure, good enough. Yeah, that's just kind of. It doesn't actually matter where this one goes, so I'll keep going. So I'll do that here. Even though I'm flipping it, it's still going to be a clockwise rotation. Oh no, my computer's about to die. Okay, I'm gonna take a small hiatus and plug my computer in. Bear with me 1 sec, guys. Okay. And we're back. So we got 5 of those, and then the next one. And here. and the last one. Cool. And like I said, this is all relative to the original boundaries of the paper. If I had exactly these creases and I had more paper, these wouldn't lay flat, but because they're intersecting right at the edge of the paper, there's no issues whatsoever. So I'm actually developing this based on the boundary of the region that I'm working on. The reason I'm phrasing a lot of this stuff like this, I'm trying to suss out how it sounds. So this is the topic of my next book. If you have a field of corrugated creases that follow a specific set of rules, how do you determine which regions will have the potential of flat foldability? It's not even that they're flat foldable. It's just like even a step beyond that. It's kind of, I need to figure out the right wording for that. But for this case, we have a set of creases, and within this boundary, this is flat foldable. If I were to cut that boundary off and remove it from the infinite plane, then I could fold it flat, as demonstrated in just a bit. Except you'll see that there's another hiccup where we're going to go through some zone of transitioning. I'll explain what I mean. So this is the first collapse. With this first collapse, Ray Champ would call this the first degree of pleats. I'm still working on the best term. I don't know. I've always found degree of pleats to be a little confusing for new folders or people coming in. First collapse, maybe. I'm still jury's still out on whether that's the best phrase for it. But you can see why it's called why I call it the first collapse. It is the collapse of all of those pre-creased forms, and you get this spiral effect, which is kind of nice, little bow tie. One of those. So next thing is to set up the second collapse. And you can think about this in several ways. If I unfold this and I look at the crease pattern, actually, I missed one. If I look at the crease pattern, I effectively have these triangular boundary regions. Now, the triangular is sort of singular to this setup, the way I did it. Most of the time, they're going to be quadrilaterals, weird quadrilaterals. Like, you rarely can say that they're rectangle or trapezoidal. They're just random four-sided shapes. But if I took this triangular region, for example, we'll say this one right here, and I cut that out of the paper and removed it, had that triangle sitting over here, and developed another set of creases that don't intersect on that boundary region, that would create the second collapse. So it's almost not self-similar, but there is a fractal-ish sort of thing happening here, where you set up a certain boundary, create some creases that don't intersect on the outside of the boundary, which creates new boundaries. Then you can remove those and talk about creases that don't intersect on those boundary regions, and then you can keep going in for secondary collapses, tertiary collapses, quaternary, etc. So, and I'll explain what I mean there. So, I could straight up draw a bunch of creases in this region that don't intersect within that region. And then basically what will happen is any crease that hits a boundary of that region will reflect into the next region. Reflect. And depending on the angles, it might diverge in one direction or the other, or it might end up going straight. So part of the question is what will happen to a given crease once it hits a boundary. If we're keeping it in sort of a standard form, it will reflect at the same angle that it hits. So whatever this angle is, it'll exit at that angle going out, and it'll follow that same thing throughout. So there's another way to do this. Rather than just throwing random creases in one of these boundaries, I could do this a little more systematically. Or I suppose aesthetically. Yeah, I can do this a little more aesthetically by looking at what the first collapse looks like when it's realized. So this is the fully collapsed state of the first collapse. And then this is flat, so I can act on it as if it were a flat sheet of paper. So let's play with this. What would happen if this were a flat sheet of paper if I folded like this? I'm looking at this line, and everything on that side of the line is going to be folded downwards. There's a whole bunch of layers here, but I don't need a perfect fold. So I'm gonna pinch as much as I can, bend it. Really, where it needs to be accurate is over in this area where there's only one layer of paper. That's going to be the driving vector, as it were. There we go. So I took that, kind of looks like a butterfly wing, folded that sucker down, and now we can unfold that and see what happens. And as it turns out, this has exactly the same. This is an equivalent thing to starting with a crease in this sector, this region, hits a boundary of that region, reflects. In this case, it doesn't reflect on the paper, it reflects way down here, but that's by design. So, I'll transition this into a corrugation in just a bit, but I want to get a few more things going on here. Let's see. Go back to the first collapse. Let's do. We've got this one, and I'm gonna do this one. And actually intersects the first secondary collapse. And this is where things can get kind of complicated. There's weird stuff happening here. So I'm interested to see how that resolves. The order is going to matter. I'll unfold that. All right, that's probably enough for a base for a start. So I'm going to collapse this. Basically, this set of reflection lines is going to be the mountain folds. This is going to be mountain fold all the way through. Anywhere where one of the first collapse creases hits that reflection line, it'll switch from a mountain fold to a valley fold, or a valley fold to a mountain fold. A little bit of practice, you can sort of walk your fingers along a reflection path. I might do a video on techniques for that at some point. When you're done, you have quite a satisfying shadow play thing here. So that's kind of cool. Next one's going to be this one. And like I said, this one actually intersects the first one. So this is going to come up, intersect the first one. Something like that. I don't know if you can see that little little M that comes out. All right. Neat. Yeah, I like that. So, one thing to notice, you kind of have to think of these in different modes. So this is you have the crease pattern mode, you have the sort of natural, I guess, rigidly foldable. There's a rest state. Is probably a good term for it. So the rest state of this, where all of the creases are at least a little folded, but there's only so much memory to keep it in place, and that's going to depend on whatever the material is. This has a strong memory, so the fold angle is going to be a little more intense than maybe if I folded from I don't know, rice paper or something like that. And then you have the flat folded state. Now in the flat folded state, we see something kind of interesting. So I see a flat surface that goes across here. This is all part of the domains one cut theory. Where basically the boundaries, if you create angle bisectors within a bounded region and you effectively create a sink. Sink would be the folded form of cutting across a straight line. If you imagine everything on the outside, all of this region, instead of folding under, if I just cut along this line, I would end up with all this stuff removed from the paper. That's kind of what the one cut theory is about. It's more than that, but that's for our purposes, that's what it's about. So in the flat folded state, we have a straight line, and we have this one little nub here. I don't know if you can see that. So it goes straight across here, and then there's just a little thing that's sticking up. So it's barely even visible. You kind of have to touch it with your finger. I'm gonna get that down. This is more of an aesthetic thing. If you kind of a mentally aesthetic thing. I don't know if it's actually going to look good, but I'll put a little thing there, a little sink, just to make sure that everything lines up just right. We get a more intense one here. So this is our fold line, hits that mountain, and then I'm going to fold that mountain down. There's actually a couple here. And I think what this does is it speaks to the more infinite plane of corrugations, which I think is oftentimes neglected. So I'll show you what I mean. What we have here is this. This right here is our first secondary collapse. And then this right here is our second secondary collapse. And this ends right here at this point. It basically goes up, bounces around a little bit in here, and then comes down, and then stops. Except it doesn't. It continues on because these creases, these reflection lines never stop reflecting. Anytime they would hit a crease, even if it's off the paper, it still resolves, it bounces. So this would, I think, eventually come back and find its way onto here. There's probably some complex numbers or something. I haven't explored that much, but the fact that in the collapse, the crease that comes off here, if I were to follow that, would come back around and develop this little dart pattern. Just naturally kind of indicates that there's this connection between that dart and that reflection line. Don't ask me how. I think that'd be a cool kind of topic for. I run a math group every other week called the MOB, the Math Origami Beverages group. If anyone's interested in that, feel free to shoot me an email. It's brdparker@gmail.com. That's B as in bird, R as in Richard, D as in David, Parker, Parker @gmail.com. Yeah, I'd be happy to send you an invite. We usually have some pretty good conversations. This is all set up through Ricardo or Kamikyodai's Discord channel. So I can send you an invite to that, and yeah, we can talk about origami and complex numbers, and I think that'd be super cool. So this is our base. It looks kind of cool, but I can get more, I can develop this a little more. We're coming up on about 45 minutes of this, so I don't think this is going to be quite as long as some of the others, which I think is just fine. You know, I'll let you all go earlier. But maybe I wanted to get another set of reflection lines, say here. Yeah, let's do that. So the way to do this is, first off, flatten it out with sort of the confidence that it will have the memory to go back. Maybe you have to work out some kinks as you're flattening it out again, getting it back into its rest state. But you know, in the meantime, flatten it out, and now we can work on it as if it were a flat sheet of paper, because it in fact is a flat sheet of paper. Let's put one here. So a segment right here in this region. You can see I've got that one of those quadrilaterals I was talking about. I'm just gonna pinch, a little tiny pinch right there. It doesn't have to be parallel to the first one. Actually, it looks like it's a little rotated clockwise relative to the first one. That's fine. I'm going to develop the reflections all the way through in both directions, ignoring the first set of secondary creases. Excuse me. And that's how this works. So what I'm doing here, the paper naturally knows how to reflect lines. If I keep the one zigzag going this way and the opposite zigzag going this way, I can sort of gather the paper as it goes from one to the next. Okay, so based on my decision, I had it reflect over one of the secondary creases. This will be interesting. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll keep walking it across the paper. Let's see how this, seeing how much it messes up. Okay, we're having fun. Things are going to get messy here, so I'm going to work on this side. Because remember, every reflection line has to go in both directions, to infinity. They're just going to keep going forever. And Okay, so I've got the one direction. Let's go the other direction. Okay. I don't think that was too painful. Oh, see, now I'm having fun. I was having fun before, but now this is like, I might keep this going a little longer. All right, there's the next secondary collapse. Let's keep going with this. I really like how this is developing. I think it looks cool. So we'll continue this pattern. We had a secondary collapse crease here, secondary collapse crease here. I'm gonna develop that all the way down, I think. So that'll be the third one in that region, fourth one. And again, I'm just eyeballing parallelness and even spacing. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. Usually it tricks the eye enough. We can develop that all the way through. So I've got the first secondary collapse, second secondary collapse, third secondary collapse, which reflects over the second one, the fourth one, which will reflect over the second one, the fifth one, which will reflect over the second one. And then it comes down to back creasing, because each of these secondary collapses have to oscillate from mountains to valley folds. You'll see what I mean. Okay. Now we have a weird thing happening here. And I mentioned it earlier. I thought this would have more zone of transition stuff. Turns out it does. There's a little bit over here. What's happening, the reflection lines they don't have to, but it's preferable that they oscillate. So you have up, down, up, down, up, down, up, up. And so what happens is this reflects like that, and then it hits this crease, and it reflects again going upward. And so you lose the oscillation. Actually, it oscillates now in the other pattern. So if it's up, down is A, B, A, B, you have A, B, A, B, B, A, B. And if this were to continue on through the infinite plane, now you have a different oscillation, and actually it would start to ramp up and get more spiky as it went in that direction. So that's cool. We have a zone of transition, but what that means is this isn't going to lay flat anymore, which is fine. Okay, so the next one. I'm gonna forget about this set of reflection lines and go on to the next one. This is actually quite a complicated corrugation. I think for next week, I've been doing a lot of pleat patterns and pleated tessellations, whatever you want to call them, in these live streams. I might transition into corrugations for a little bit. I don't know. I'm like I said, not making any plans. I'm just having fun with this. Not having fun with the tech issues, but I'm having fun with the actual content of this. The main purpose of this is for the growing pains to get used to live streaming and figure out all the technical whatevers. Okay, here we go. So the first secondary collapse looks like this. I've got all the pre-creases that I need. All the pre-creases you can eat. Like I said, if you go through this with the confidence that the paper will have enough memory to go back in, then you should be fine. Keep in mind you can always just undo. You can always unfold, refold. If you need to take it to if you really like a pattern but the execution maybe messed up the paper too much, you can always take it to a vector arts software like Inkscape or Illustrator, CorelDRAW, something like that, and you can draw all your vectors that you need. You throw it if you have a cutter, or even if you don't have a cutter, you throw it on a printer, and with very thin lines, and you just fold over the lines. You can reproduce various patterns. So there we go. That's the first. The first secondary collapse is. Well, actually, I've got the first and the second. So there's the first secondary collapse. There's the second secondary collapse. Now I'm going to do the third and fourth secondary collapses at the same time, because this one's going to be a valley, next one's going to be a mountain. You can see how that develops like that. It's easier to do two at a time because it'll kind of come back to base after you do two of them. So you do a valley and a mountain, then I'll do another valley. I've only got one left, but if I had more, I'd do mountains and valleys in pairings, because it just makes it easier. There we go. This third secondary collapse is reflecting over the second secondary collapse, and the fourth secondary collapse is also reflecting off the second secondary collapse, like I mentioned earlier. There we go. And it all folds flat until you get to this point. That's where the zone of transition occurs. But whatever you can do flat helps with the folding. It just makes sure that your creases are come together real nice. Oh no, I might have another zone of transition here. Oh, and I have conflicting. This is okay. So this is interesting. So what's happening here is I have a mountain fold, valley fold, and I actually have another zone of transition here, which I did not realize. This actually has to go the other direction and fold up like that, except it's wrestling with what's here. This isn't just not flat foldable. It's just not foldable at all. So I'm gonna BS this basically. I mean, it's small enough, it's close enough to the edge that I can just say that this is supposed to reflect this way. Don't tell anyone. So we have an oscillation and no zone of transition over here. Do have zone of transition over here. And I think that's just going to have to do. So we got the last secondary crease, which is going to reflect over the second secondary crease. I don't know if any of what I'm saying is making sense to newer or even experienced folders. The weird thing about corrugations is everyone's going to have their own terminology. we'll see. We'll see if I saw a lot of people folding some of the pleated tessellations that I had in previous live streams, and I think that was awesome. So thank you guys for doing that and tagging me on Instagram. It makes my day to see that stuff. If you're able to do this is a whole different style, the corrugations versus the pleated tessellations. I think fundamentally it's the same sort of idea, but the result and the kind of the target is different, because you're going for a resting state of 2.5 dimensions, mid-fold, or this kind of semi-flattened shadow play state. And this really highlights, you've got the zigzags, it spikes up, and then it curves like this, which gets a little weird. But yeah, I think that's what I'm going to call the live stream here. Oh, I did want to show you what I worked on at the Grizz last night. So this is same sort of idea, except before doing the diagonals between the parallels, I set up three creases, one on either side. So instead of reflecting like this, things will reflect like this. Like that. There's little tiny steps in there. So I'll post, I'm going to work on this a little more, maybe post a picture and use that as the logo for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't think I got too many people in the live stream today. Beth, thank you for joining and your feedback. It's hard for me to know what's going on. I'm getting more and more used to it. But if you're watching the recorded video, I'm interested in your thoughts. And yeah, I'll see you next week. I'll have things worked out by then. I will probably have less hair at that point from pulling it all out, but I will, yeah, I'm going to get this thing. So help me God. Okay, bye everyone.